Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for finding time and remaining with us. I'm Ummi Salma, core volunteer and head of campus ambassador in IGP. I'm really grateful who always join with us to learn and enjoy our international webinar. For this knowledge seeker, we are trying to be the first best trainer, speaker, coaches from all over the world. Before starting our main program, I want to give a little concept about IGP. IGP is a non-profit institution and its work on holistic mission. The institute is to generate professional generation all over the world. We work for students, job seeker, job holder by giving effective training and consultation. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals. And we expect that you all are getting a little bit advantage and we wish that you all are remaining with us in long journey. I am cordially welcoming you all. Hopefully, you all are benefited in your personal and professional life. Enjoy and stay with us. We have already completed 65 webinars successfully. Today, we are presenting the webinar 66 on educational authentic assessment with two speakers, Maria Esperanza Malam, Dr. Nestor Pinoska. So let's start our program. Our first speaker is Dr. Nestor Pinoska. Dr. Nestor Pinoska, presently the Regional Supervisor of Mathematics in Region 3, Philippines. Aside from handling math, he is also the coordinator of multi-grade education, ICT education, alternative delivery mode. He is committed, dedicated to his work and profession. He always inspires teachers to become active and involved in themselves in activities that will develop their skills, abilities, habits. He is also selected as one the corporate ambassador of IGP. He is working hard. He is a hardworking man. Started as a secondary school teacher with numerous recognition and awards in the field of education. He always believed that dreams don't work unless you do. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Nestor Pinoska, sir. Hello, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you, IGP, for entrusting us this rare opportunity to share one essential topic to our dear participants. My deep,
Stage is over to you. Thank you, sir.
yes, my deep of respect also to my co-discussant, an education program supervisor in the division of Angeles City, Philippines, Madam Esperanza Malam. Welcome, ma'am. And to our more than 100 of participants across continents. Good evening and welcome to our session entitled Educational Authentic Assessment. Our session target at the end of this session, the participants are able to one is to internalize and follow the guiding principles in designing tests framework. And then number two, construct a useful, authentic assessment. And third, develop intervention program or innovation plan of actions following the principles in developing authentic assessment. Our challenge is that this is the important one. The participants are able to craft realistic assessment tools which could be used to measure the performance of your learners your coworkers, and able to design and share best practices, projects, innovation that will improve performance of your target clientele. So, what is assessment? Is it synonymous to attest? The word assessment, is it synonymous to attest? Are they the same? Well, a test is one form of assessment and refers to procedures used to measure a learner's learning at a specific point in time. And often involves collecting information and numerical form, while assessment covers a broader range of procedures than testing and include both formal and informal measure. Assessment, when we say assessment, it is a process of designing what levels of a student is at or how much progress they are making, or it is a piece of work or an exam done by a student so that the teachers can judge their level of progress. And another one is benchmarking. When we say benchmarking, this is also uh, an, ex- uh, an assessment that we could use, no, for external standard. This is used to assess performance also. And what is assessment or what is a test? So test is a measuring tool for cognitive traits that could be gauged using an objective or less subjective format or method. So a test is also a tool in which measuring unit depends on its length and the level of difficulty of items indicated by its assigned points or percentage of examinees who got the correct answer. So, what are cognitive skills? When we say cognitive skills or cognitive abilities are the ways that the brain remembers, reasons, hold attentions, solve problems, thinks, reads, and learn. Your cognitive abilities help you to process new information by taking that information and distributing it into the appropriate areas in your brain. When you need that information later, your brain also uses cognitive skills to retrieve and use that information. By developing cognitive skills, you help your brain complete this process more quickly and efficiently, and you ensure that you understand and effectively process that new information. In the workplace, cognitive skills help you interpret data, remember team goals, pay attention during an important meeting, and more. These skills help you recall previous information that may relate to your organization's goals and help you make important connections between old and new information so you work more effectively. So, what are the kind of a test? There are different kinds of tests. One is the achievement test. This is designed to test what learners have learned over a period of time, while unit tests are conducted in school to evaluate the summative assessment of teaching learning process. So we have also a formative test, a summative test, and periodical test. A summative test, when compared to formative, the formative is broader. And this will be given after a unit. While formative test, this is a kind of test that after the discussion period, the teacher will give a, a short quiz, but that is not recorded. While periodical tests, this is recorded. No, this kind of test given perhaps after a unit uh, is are being done, no, or are taught. So why tests in an objective or less subjective format? According to PLU President Dr. Marilyn Balagtas, she said, and I quote, that the test in an objective format allows a student to answer at the same time and the same format. And it is easy to grade the students. And of course, it is easy to rank the students. Because test result could harm people, he said, the tool where these results are based should be well planned or designed. And there are guiding principles to consider when testing. One is validity. The test should be designed and used for its intended purpose. So when we say validity, it refers to how accurately a method measures what is intended to measure. If research has high validity, that means it produces results that correspond to real properties, characteristics, and of course the variation in physical and social world. High reliability is an indicator that a measurement is valid. Validity is about the accuracy of a measure. And it tells how accurately a method measures something. If a method measures what it claims to measure and the result closely correspond to real world values, then it can be considered valid. These are the four types of validity. One is construct validity, content validity, uh, phase validity, and we have the other one, the criterion validity. So, a construct validity, uh, does the test measure the concept that it's intended to measure? Is the test fully representative of what it claims to measure, that is content? And for the base phase validity, does the content of the test appear to be suitable to its end? And for the criterion validity, do the result correspond to a different tests of the same thing? So reliability, in other words, the test should produce consistent result across time and forms and regardless of checkers. Reliability is about the consistency of a measure. Many factors can influence your result at different points in time. For example, respondents might experience different modes or external condition might affect their ability to respond accurately. So we are going to use test, retest reliability. I recall when one of my professors said, if you teach, you have to test, and then if the student fail the test, then you give another test. So we have test, retest, reliability. This can be used to assess how well a method resists this factor over time. The smaller the difference between the two sets of results, the higher the test retest reliability. So reliability tells how consistently a method measures something. When you apply the same method to the same sample under the same conditions, you should get the same result. If not, the method of measurement may be unreliable. There are four main types of reliability. There are four uh, main types of reliability. Each can be estimated by comparing different sets of results produced by the same method. And how to measure reliability? It can be measured in terms of test, retest reliability. You conduct the same test on the same group of people at two different points in time. Then you calculate the correlation. So this is a simple statistics. You have to compute the correlation between the two sets of results. Okay? So inter-rater reliability, the same test is conducted by the different people, while parallel form reliability, different version of a test which are designed to be equivalent. And there are also internal consistency, the individual items of a test. And we should consider, or in designing a test or constructing a test, we should consider fairness. The purpose of the test should be known to the students. Gender and culture free and should have positive consequences. So, what is fair assessment? For an assessment to be fair, it must measure the student ability and the subject they have studied effectively, differentiate student performance, ensure no student is disadvantaged, including those who speak English as a second language, give all students the same opportunity to achieve the right grade irrespective of which exam series they take or which examiner marks their paper. So to ensure our exam are fair, we apply three core principles when we design our assessment. There are these are validity, reliability, and comparability. We also consider utility, practicality, authenticity, and balance. When we say utility, the test should be used to improve learning and teaching and aid to decision making. And and a utility, it is the state of being useful, profitable, or beneficial. It must be functional rather than attractive. And for practicality, the test should be used with ease in administration and scoring. While authenticity comes from the word authentic, the test should simulate real life context, the aspect of a situation that involves the actual doing or experience of something rather than theories or ideas. So that is meant by practicality. While balance, the test should be balanced in difficulty. Authenticity, going back to authenticity, the quality of being authentic. The paper should have established the authenticity of the document before publishing them. When we say authenticity, it is synonymous to genuineness, originality, rightfulness, legality. We have also the word validity, bona fides, and legitimacy. And balance, the word balance is a condition in which different elements are equal or in the correct proportion. So try to keep a balance between work and relaxation. So those words are heard many times. And balance is synonymous to fairness, justice, impartiality, and of course, equal opportunity and egalitarianism. And now, how do we construct quality tests to assess the true knowledge, understanding, and skills of the learner? So, here we have to consider the test framework, the most essential learning competency. This is the CG and TOS. TOS, this is table of spec or specification. And after that, then pilot tests and analyze the result, taking the validity and reliability, and then final administration. And we have the process. But before the process, I would like to share our experiences in crafting the project numerates. To give you a glimpse or an idea of what PAN or project all numerates is all about, well, the regional office or the regional project all numerates is an assessment tool used to diagnose, engage the mathematical ability and achievement of the pupils in the elementary level from grades 1 to 6. And we also included grade 7. Based on the recommendation of the Division Mathematics Education Program Supervisor of the region. And before we have different tests, we have 20 division and we administer different set of questions. Now we standardize. We came up with uniform kind of test or standard one that will be adapted by the region. So after the crafting of the assessment tool, the same test shall undergo tests of validity, reliability, followed by pilot testing before it will be administered. The activity actually aims to craft project all numerates assessment tool for grades 1 to 7 and review and finalize the assessment tool. And after reviewing and finalizing, we also pilot tests. And again, after pilot tests, we get the validity and reliability by simply using simple statistic for validity and reliability, and then finalization. We incorporate all suggestion after pilot testing. So after finalization, then that's the time that we administer the test, the pre-test. So, design plan of action that will improve the performance of our pupil after finding or getting the different recommendation, different what is this problems, and then after that, maybe before the end of the the year, then we have to administer the same set of tests, and we call that post tests. Okay, we validate the administration of retests. The modality that was mainly used to conduct the activity was through the distribution and retrieval of printed copies of the assessment tool, adhering strictly to the safety and health protocols. Um, we use we use I mean modules, or we give the tests uh, to the 20 division to the 20 divisions. Our target is 20 20 division, and all the students will be given the same kind of test. And then instruction guidelines notes were attached to the materials explaining the objectives of the conduct of the said testing. The participation and involvement of the parents, guardian, were enjoined by ensuring that only the learners were the ones who answered the test, and that no computing tools or gadget was ever used. So, however, though 100% of the target schools participated in the undertaking, 100% turnout of responses from the learners was not attained, as not all parents, guardians came to receive the materials. Teachers failed to reach these parents, guardians, as the contact details they provided during the registration were no longer serviceable. So there are problems because of this um, time of uncertainties. Uh, we the honesty one is the honesty and answering the test. We give emphasis on this during the orientation with parents, and then distribution and retrieval as scheduled. But some parents fail to get and return the test result. Some students choose online also. Instead, some uh, choose online. So we provide them Google Forms. Other school, other school use printed materials, and some school use Google Classroom, letting the student open their cameras, videos while answering. So here, here is the test development in evaluation process. So we start on designing the test framework, and then after designing the test framework, we have to identify the competencies, MELC, or the most essential competencies. And then after that, we develop and review the TOS, or the table of specification, so that the number of hours or the number of items that we give dependent on the number of hours each competencies is taught. So if you teach the competencies in 5 or 6 days, then perhaps you give more tests regarding that competencies. So it depends on the number of hours. So we have to develop and review the TOS or a table of specification. And then after that, we write items. So the next step is validate the items and then revise items in paper and then online if needed. So during revision, we use virtual online, no? And then pilot test. We have to pilot test. During the pilot test, if the number of test question is 100, you have to add perhaps 20 or 30 as buffers. Okay, so that if there is an item that is not good or not valid, then you have to change it. So you will not undergo pilot anymore. And then analyze the result. We have to analyze the result. So that is the important thing. And then revise again if needed, and then try it out. If not okay, then you have to revise again. If it is okay, and if it is okay, then get the establish its validity and reliability. And if it's okay, use the test for the defined purpose. So that's it. That's how to test development and evaluation process using paper-based or online. And then design under design test framework, we have a standard competencies of the curriculum. And of course, it is integrated content and skills. The framework of the content and context of the test. And we have also considered the revised Bloom's Taxonomy or RBT by Carr, and Anderson. So this is the framework of the question or problems of the test and framework of the choices of the test or responses. And then from Bloom taxonomy to revise Bloom taxonomy, that was 1956, then 2001. During that time, 1956, we use noun, no? Noun, and then revised to verb form, verb form. So we have the knowledge, we test the knowledge, comprehension of the students, the application, the analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So under this, we have the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills. So uh, during 1956, no, we emphasize on noun, but 2001 onward, we emphasize on verb. So there is a difference. The revised Bloom's taxonomy start with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and then creating So the higher order thinking skill is um, under evaluating. We have all evaluating and creating. The highest form is creating, while 1956 synthesis and evaluation. The higher order thinking skills in 1956 or the Bloom taxonomy, that was 1956 is synthesis and evaluation. But in the revised Bloom taxonomy, evaluate and create. Okay. And then the paradigm shift in assessment framework during 20th century, um, again under Bloom's and Associates, while 2001 we have Anderson and Rothwell. So as I have said, during 1956 we emphasize the noun, no? Noun for the knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. While the 21st century, we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Okay? Okay, thank you. So, I think Madam Malang will follow. I'm done already. Madam Malang will continue. So I'll give the floor to Madam Malang.
Thanks sir, for giving your valuable insight in educational authentic assessment. We learned a lot from you and also understand the importance of authentic assessment in education field. Uh, Now we are moving to our next speaker. Next guest speaker is Maria Esperanza Malang. I would like to introduce our guest today. Maria Esperanza Malang. She is the divisional supervisor of the mathematics at School Division School of Angeles City, Philippines. Her dedication to the service as a classroom teacher and with a high level of moral merit has selected for her present position now. She is very competent and a workaholic. Being a division math supervisor, she supervises her subordinates and continues inspiring them to work hard for the benefit of the learners. She is also a working mother. Please give a warm welcome to the Maria Speranza Malan. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Now, good evening. Now, stage is your.
Okay, thank you, Madam. So, actually, my topic is just a continuation of the discussion of Sir Nestor. So, thank you, Madam. Good PM. I'll be discussing about the continuation of the discussion of Sir Nestor. So, the following are the objectives of the session. So, the first one, identify the general principles of classroom assessment. The second one, enumerate the different types of assessment and their uses. Relate how assessment reports are used for discussions on instruction. Lastly, suggest how the assessment system can be managed in the school to keep track of learners' progress and to ensure that learners meet the learning standards. Actually, when we are testing our learners, we are using these four words: test, testing, measurement, and evaluation. So we need to construct tests because a test, it's the device that we have to use when we are testing our learners. Test is the device, it's the instrument, protocol, or technique that measures attribute of interest. After constructing the test, of course, we need to use that test. once we will use that test, we are already referring to testing. Now, what is testing? It's the technique of obtaining information needed for evaluation purposes. So we need that test in order for us to obtain information. After obtaining information, what are we going to do with those information? We need to collect data. Once we are collecting data, actually we are already using measurement. So measurement, it's the process of collecting data on attribute of interest, process of coming up data. So since we have already the data now, what are we going to do with those data? Of course, we need to interpret those data so that we will know the kind of learners that we have. So that is what we call evaluation. Now, Sir Nestor a while ago mentioned about classroom. So he mentioned about assessment. So what do I mean when I am talking about classroom assessment? Classroom assessment is an ongoing process of identifying, gathering, organizing, and interpreting information. As what I've said earlier, we need to interpret the data that we have so that we will know what the learners know, understand, and can do. So we have to do that. We have to test our learners for us to know them, for us to understand them also. Now, according to Ma'am Balagtas, in education, assessment is the process of gathering and organizing quantitative and qualitative indicators or evidences of student learning as basis for decision making. The main reason why we have to know our learners so that we will know the kind of decision that we have to do when it comes to teaching and learning process so that we will know what will be the interventions that we have to give to our learners. That's why we need to assess them. Now, take note of this. Assessment should be holistic and authentic in capturing the attainment of most essential learning competencies. So, in order for us to attain our objectives, we have to take into consideration that assessment should be holistic and at the same time authentic. And assessment is integral for understanding student learning and development. So we have variety of assessment strategies. So it is up to us what will be the assessment that we have to use. Assessment and feedback should be a shared responsibility among teachers, learners, and their families. So we are not only talking about learners, we are also talking about teachers, we are also talking about the parents of our learners. So teachers must help learners so that the learners will become the best. Assessment and grading should have a positive impact on learning. So let me read the principles of assessment, and afterwards I am going to discuss them with you one by one. So the first one is assessment should be aligned with objectives, learning standards, and competencies. Assessment should be more like instruction. Number three, assessment should recognize the diversity of learners, hence varied methods appropriate to the type of learners are utilized. Number four, the formative assessment should scaffold the learners in summative assessment. Number five, assessment results should be used by teachers to help students learn better. And lastly, assessment involves both teachers and learners. So principle number one, assessment should be aligned with objectives, learning standards, and competencies. So when we are constructing our items or our questions, be sure that all those questions must be aligned with our objectives. And when we are talking about objectives, we have also the learning standards and we have also the learning competencies. Now, what is assessed in the classroom? So classroom assessment is aimed of, or rather, is aimed at helping students perform well in relation to learning standards, which comprise content standards. Now, what do I mean when I am talking about content standards? These are the topics that our learners must know and understand. Okay? And then how about performance standards? So our learners must perform and demonstrate all the topics or all I mean all the competencies that we have under the content standards. And then when we are talking about the learning competencies, these are the specific statements of knowledge, process, skills, and attitude that students are expected to demonstrate attain the content standards. So it means to say when we are talking about the content standards, our learners must understand everything, or maybe the teachers must do something so that our learners will be able to understand all the topics that will be discussed to our learners. So always remember that when we are constructing our questions, these questions must be aligned with our objectives, with our learning standards and competencies. Because if they're not aligned, our questions will not be valid anymore, and at the same time they will not be reliable, because our definition when it comes to validity, we can say that a test is valid if it measures what it is supposed to measure. Now, if the test item or if the question that the teacher will make will not be aligned with the learning competencies or with the learning standards or with the objectives, therefore that item is not anymore valid because it is not aligned with our objectives. The second one, of course, we have to take into consideration how come we need to assess our learners. What do we assess? Of course, we need to assess their knowledge and at the same time their skills, product, affects, disposition, and reasoning. So we are also talking about purposes in assessing learning. We have assessment for learning. We have assessment of learning. We have also assessment as learning. So when we are talking about assessment for learning, so we are talking about the formative test and the diagnostic test. Sir Nestor made mention about formative tests a while ago. He said that when we are talking about formative tests, these are actually recorded, but these are not graded. How come we don't need to grade this one? Because we are using formative tests to measure or rather to track the progress of our learners. So if they are all ready, then we can give the summative test. So take note, formative tests are recorded, but these are not graded. Now, if our learners are already ready to take the summative test, then we can now give it to them. So once we are talking about summative, actually we are referring to what? Assessment of learning. How about assessment as learning? So we're talking about learners' involvement in assessment for and of learning. How about the second one? So as what I've said, principle one, our objectives, our questions or the items that we have to construct, they should be aligned with our learning competencies. How about principle two? Assessment should be more like instruction. So our source, Magno 2015. So I think you are familiar when it comes to zone of proximal development. So skills too difficult to master for a child on his or her own, but can be done with guidance and encouragement from a knowledgeable person. So if there are, let's say, difficult skills to be mastered, of course, we need the help of our parents, or we need the help of our teachers. That's why teachers need to give intervention to our learners. They need to guide them. Okay? And then how about this one? Always remember that when we are assessing our learners, we want to help them. We're not talking about grades. We're not talking about markings. What we want is to help them. We need to provide them advice for improvement. So actually, some assessment practices to be avoided. Number one, a tendency for teachers to assess quantity and presentation of work rather than quality of learning. If the teacher is doing that, the teacher is not a good teacher, because the main reason why we want to assess our learners, because we want them we want to develop them to the fullest. That's why we have to check the quality of learning. That's why we are assessing our learners. We're not only assessing the quantity and the presentation of work, but we are assessing the quality of learning of our learners. And then greater attention given to marking and grading, much of it tending to lower self-esteem of students rather than providing advice for improvement. As what I've said earlier, we are assessing our learners because we want to help them. We should give them advice for improvement. So once you see that let's say the scores of your students are not that good, so what will you do now? So you have to do something to help your learner. Now, a strong emphasis on comparing students, with each other, which demoralizes the less successful leaders. In the Philippines now, once our learners are very good, actually, once they will obtain, let's say, the grade that we want, our students will be recognized. So once the student will do his or her best, he will be recognized at the end of the school year. Now, assessment should recognize diversity of learners. We have different kinds of learners. We have learners, let's say, when we are talking about them, we have learners that are not ready. We have learners, let's say, they're ready to go beyond, but we have learners that are not ready. And at the same time, we have also learners who are ready. So what are you going to do if you have this kind of learners? So as a teacher, you have to think of different ways on how to address this. Because, like, for example, if we are inside the classroom, or even though we're not conducting our classes inside the classroom, even though we have online classes or modular or whatever modality that we are using, of course, we are also encountering different kinds of learners, the learners who are ready, those who are not ready, those who are ready to go beyond, or those who are ready. So what will you do with them? What will be the activity or activities that you will give to them so that you will be able to address their needs? As what I've said a while ago, when we are evaluating or when we are assessing our learners, we have to think of this: quality of learning, advice for improvement, identifying individual progress. Now, formative assessment may be given anytime during the teaching learning progress. It is also a way to check the effectiveness of instruction. It can be given before, during, and after. How about a summative assessment? Summative assessment may be seen as assessment of learning which occurs at the end of a particular unit. Now, the formative assessment should scaffold the learners in summative tests. So, formative tests will tell us, no, will tell the teachers if we will already give the summative test to our learners. So, formative tests, these are formal and informal processes teachers and students use to gather evidence to directly improve the learning of students assessed. So that's why, as I've said a while ago, we are not after marking, we're not after grading, we are after what? Improvement of our learners. Assessment as learning used to help students assess and adjust their own learning. How about assessment for learning? Used to inform teachers' decision. This will tell the teacher what will be the next step that you have to do if the scores of your students are like this. How about summative? Provides evidence achievement to certify students' competence or program effectiveness. So formative uses of summative data, use of summative evidence to inform what comes next for individuals or groups of students. How are learners assessed in the classroom? Later on, I am going to give you samples also, let's say, when we are assessing using online discussion. So for this one, we have formative individual examples. We have individual. Under individual, we have check-up quizzes, we have written exercises, we have performances, models, electronic presentations. How about under collaborative? We have discussions, we have role-playing, we have games and other group activities. How about when it comes to summative? Individual, we have unit tests, we have the quarterly assessment. In the Philippines, we call it quarterly assessment. How about under collaborative? Of course, we have a group project. Now, how do we plan? Let's say when we are talking about assessment, how is formative assessment done under DO number 2015? So before the lesson, so the teacher must, before the lesson, the teacher must do something. So when we are talking about formative assessment, it informs the teacher about students' understanding of a lesson topic. So before the lesson, that's why the teacher is giving formative tests before the lesson, because it helps also the teacher understand where the students stand in terms of conceptual understanding and application, and at the same time provides basis for making instructional decisions. That's why we are using formative before the lesson. How about during the lesson? How come we need to give formative assessment to our learners? It informs the teacher of the progress of the students in relation to the development of the learning competencies. And at the same time, it helps the teacher determine whether instructional strategies are effective. So if the let's say strategies are not effective, okay, based on the scores of the students, then the teacher must change the strategies. If let's say if the learners are not improving, then the teacher must do something. That's why formative test is also given during the lesson. And at the same time, compares the results before and during the lesson to establish if conceptual understanding and application have improved. How come we are also giving formative tests after the lesson? Because we need to assess whether learning objectives were achieved or not. So we need to find out whether objectives were achieved or not. And it allows the teacher to evaluate the effectiveness also of instruction. And it helps the teacher decide whether to give a review, whether he has to conduct intervention, or whether he has or she has to reteach the topic, or whether he has to remediate or enrich lessons, and or move on to the next lesson. Another, it helps identify students who require remediation and or enrichment using appropriate teaching strategies. Actually, I use the ideas of Dr. Marilyn U. Balagtas. Okay, how do we plan for a formative assessment? So again, before the lesson, what will you do? So actually, before the lesson, you need to review previous lesson or presenting the new lesson. So you need to establish a purpose for the lesson. How about during the lesson? How come we need to plan for a formative assessment? So in here, you need to present examples, instances of the new lesson, discussing new concepts and practicing skills, and developing mastery, which lead to what? To formative assessment. And then finding practical applications of concepts and skills in daily living. And then making generalizations and abstractions about the lesson. How about after the lesson? So of course, we need to evaluate learning. And then if let's say if you notice that let's say as a teacher, if you find let's say if you found out that additional activities is necessary, then additional activity is necessary, then you can give it. Okay. Now, how about, let's say, after doing that, what to provide in the plan for formative assessment? A while ago, I asked you, how do we plan for a formative assessment? Now, what to provide in the plan for formative assessment? So under before the lesson, we need to provide activities to determine the students have the mastery of the prerequisite knowledge and skills of the lesson to be presented. Examples, drill, review. What else? Check immediately the answers to drill or review exercises. And then we need also to provide immediate feedback to students' answers to communicate their strengths and weaknesses or problems. And then we have to determine students' readiness to the new lesson, if they are already ready to the new lesson. And then you have to provide an activity that elicits what the learner already knows and can do about the lesson that is yet to be taught. Again, before it's also included before the lesson. Let's say when you are establishing a purpose for the lesson. So how will you provide this kind of formative assessment, no? So what to provide in the plan, for formative assessment? So check if the students have clarifications, questions on the given purpose of the lesson. And then how about during the lesson? What to provide in the plan for formative assessment? So we need to provide activities that will allow students to master the newly presented concepts or skills. And at the same time, we need to give questions to determine if the students could identify, follow the given examples, instances of the new lesson. Letter C, the next one, let students ask questions or provide their own examples to assess their own understanding and difficulties. As a teacher, we need to provide immediate feedback to students' answers to communicate their strengths and weaknesses or problems on the new lesson provided. So we need to give, or we need to provide immediate feedback to our learners. So we need also to identify learning problems of difficulties of the students. Then we need to check if the students could apply the newly developed concepts and skills in daily living. So we have to check that if they know how to apply the new developed concepts and skills. Check also if the students could make generalizations and abstractions about the lessons. And then, how about after the lesson? What to provide in the plan for formative assessment? So we need to monitor if the students have mastered the newly presented knowledge or skills. And then we need to communicate also immediately to our students the results of their assessment to inform them again of their strengths and weaknesses or problems on the new lesson developed. So we have also to identify learning problems or difficulties of the students. Of course, after knowing the problems that they have, we can provide now remedial, or we need to provide remedial. Now, if let's say if they're good, we need to give them also what? Enrichment activities. Now, or if they need intervention, we need to provide remedial or reinforcement activities. Now, how is summative assessment done? Let's say when it comes to written assessment. Usually the examples that we have here are under written assessment are long tests, essays, written reports, and other written outputs. How about when it comes to performance tests? So we can give individual or group presentations, demonstrations, and creations of product. So how about in the Philippines, we have this quarterly assessment. So at the end of the quarter, written tests and or performance test will be given to the learners. Okay, now let's say if I have this written assessment, what to provide in the plan for summative assessment? Of course, Sir Nestor a while ago made mention about TOS, and then tests with key to corrections and or rubrics that have been validated. How about when it comes to performance tests? So demonstration or creations, with rubrics that has been validated. How about when it comes to quarterly assessment? TOS, tests with key to corrections and or rubrics that have been validated. Okay, always remember this. In every lesson you do in the self-learning module, provide an opportunity for the students to ask questions and to receive immediate answers to their questions. So we need to do this. We need to provide an opportunity for our learners to ask questions, and they have to receive the answers immediately. And what else? Practice skills and get immediate feedback also on what they did. Now, again, how do we plan for a formative assessment in flexible learning? Now, if we are talking about flexible learning, we have here the printed modules, the radio television with printed modules, digital modules, online modules. Actually, these are the different modalities that we are using in the Philippines, okay? And then what to provide in the plan for formative assessment. So again, monitor if the students have mastered the newly presented knowledge or skills. Now, if the modality will be printed modules, radio television with printed modules or digital modules, so maybe I can suggest that we must have a drop box for collection of assessment results. Now, allow texts or calls to keep teachers informed of assessment results to know next action. So how about when it comes to online modules? Automated collection, organization, and interpretation of results after intervention. How about when we are let's say, if we want to communicate immediately to the students the results of their assessment? Okay, we have to do that as what I've said a while ago. We need to communicate the results of their assessment immediately. So if it is, let's say, printed, radio, or digital, so what will you do? So key to correction should be part of the SLM in the Philippines, no? Key to corrections should be part of the SLM, whether print, digital, or online, with instructions on how the students could check their own answers, analyze, and interpret the results. So the key to corrections are already part of the SLM, so that even though the teacher is not around, the students will be able to know whether their answers are correct or not. And at the same time, they need to seek the help of parents or guardians when needed. How about in identifying learning problems or difficulties of the students? No? So I am sharing now what we are doing in the Philippines. So if we have the printed modules, let's say our modality has something to do with, let's say, printed modules, radio, television, with printed modules, digital modules, or online modules. So analyze data collected and identify students at different proficiency levels and parts of the lesson needing reinforcement. Because in the Philippines, okay, we are doing this, okay, so that we can help our learners. So first week, we need to give intervention. Second week, we need to give intervention. Third week, we need to give intervention. Fourth week, we need to give intervention. And then if nothing, let's say, if the students, if they really need intervention, fifth week, we need to give remediation. Now, provide remedial or enforcement activities of the lesson if needed. Have ready materials for students needing remedial instruction or with learning difficulties included in the SLMs or the self-learning modules. Include also materials for those needing reinforcement and enrichment activities. This suggests that there should be ready differentiated activities every assessment at the end of the lesson as part of the SLMs. How about when it comes to the written assessment? So we have examples. Actually, I already mentioned them a while ago. Long tests, essays, written reports, other written reports. So if the modality will be, let's say, printed module, radio, television, or digital modules, test is collected in school and answers submitted sealed with honesty form signed by the parent guardian. All other required written output should be included in the SLMs with a detailed rubric as guide for learning and self and peer parent assessment. Now, how about online modules? Testing is done synchronously in the platform with honesty form signed by the parent. Now, how about the performance tests? So, using all the modalities, provide this in advance as part of the SLM with a detailed rubric as guide for learning and self and peer parent assessment. And then, for quarterly assessment, test is collected in school and answers submitted sealed with also with honesty form signed by the parent and guardian. Now, if it is an online, testing is done synchronously in the platform with honesty form signed by the parent or guardian. So, according to Ma'am Marilyn Balagtas, paper-based versus online assessment. So we have here the areas for comparison, the face-to-face assessment, the online assessment using forms or LMS. When it comes to media use for assessment, so under face-to-face, face-to-face assessment, text, graphics, and pictures. Under online assessment, text, graphics, pictures, plus videos, sounds, and links. How about the number of assessees? So just enough to be accommodated in the room if it is face-to-face. Now, online assessment, many at a time. Now, how about when it comes to scoring? Face to face, very slow. How about on online assessment? It's very fast. Feedbacking to individual learner, face to face, very slow. But how about on online assessment? Very fast. Data analysis, slow. Online assessment, fast. Integrity of results, high. But how about when it comes to online assessment? We cannot yet say that it is high, low, or what, because as what I've said, in the Philippines, this is our first time not to use actually the deep some of the modalities. No, that's why maybe, but we need to trust our learners also. Now, how about number 5? Principle number 5. Assessment results should be used by teachers to help students learn better. So that's the main reason why we are assessing our learners, because we want to help them. So therefore, assessment results should be used by the teachers, no, to help our learners or to help our students. Let's think about this. Are our current approaches to assessment improving student learning? How can we use assessment to help all our students want to learn? How can we help them feel that they are able to learn? How can we be sure that our assessment instruments, procedures, and scores serve to help learners want to learn and feel able to learn? How about principle number 6? Assessment is a joint process that involves both teachers, learners, and parents. So we're not only talking about learners. So in order for our learners to become the best, our teachers must do something. So as what I've said, we're not only talking about learners when we are talking about assessment. Of course, teachers, no, parents, they have also the responsibility to help their, to help their, let's say if we are talking about parents, to help their children, and if we are talking about teachers, to help their learners. Let's think about this one. Do my learners and I share agreements about how success is determined and measured? Now we have formative. I made mention about this one, and Sir Nestor also discussed about this one. Assessment for learning, actually, teachers can make adjustments in their instructions. Assessment as learning, students reflect on their own progress. They are internalizing what they learn. It may be given at any time during the teaching and learning process. This is also one way to check the effectiveness of instruction. No? If we are talking about formative tests and tracking learners' progress using systematic ways that can easily provide insight into a student learning. How about summative assessment? Assessment of learning, which occurs at the end of a particular unit. It also occurs toward the end of a learning period in order to describe the standard reached by the learner. So measures whether learners have met the content and performance standards. Okay. Now, so before we will give the summative test, of course, we need to know the objectives. So after knowing the objectives, so what are we going to do next? So we need to perform diagnostic, or we need to give them formative tests in order for us to know the lesson that we have to discuss. No, we need to decide on lesson. Okay, so deciding on lesson focus. That's why we need to give formative tests, and then the activities, and then the formative test. After giving the formative test, we need to review and retest. And then once the students reach the mastery level, then that's the time for us to give the summative test. Okay, now we have here the definition of terms. We have the learner-centered assessment. So what is this? It captures what the student knows, can do, and values on set of essential and quality learning considering his her needs, capabilities, and limitations. Balagtas 2020. Okay? How about flexible learning? So it's a set of educational philosophies and systems concerned with providing learners with increased choice, convenience, and personalization that suits their needs. So again, flexible learning, we have to take into consideration the needs of our learners. So we have to think of these words: choice, convenience, and personalization. How about distance learning? It's a learning modality where the teacher and students are geographically remote, and it includes modular distance, online distance, television, radio-based instruction. How about modular distance learning? So it's an individualized instruction that allows students to use self-learning modules in print or digital format. So in here, our learners are using self modules in print or digital format. How about online distance learning? Is a delivery mode where the teacher facilitates active engagement of the learners through the use of various technologies, access through the internet while they are geographically remote from each other during instruction. How about this TV radio-based instruction? Utilizes SLMs converted to video lessons for television-based instruction. So in the Philippines, we are using TV radio-based, okay? And then, how about this blended learning? So blended learning is a learning delivery that combines face-to-face. But in the Philippines, we're not yet applying face-to-face. So what we have right now, we have online distance learning plus it's either a modular distance learning or online distance learning plus a TV radio-based instruction, or a modular distance learning plus a TV radio-based instruction. As of this moment, we are not using face-to-face. Or maybe online distance learning plus an online modular TV or radio-based instruction. Now, assessment standards for teachers, source National Council on Measurement in Education. What assessment standard should a teacher attain when assessing learning in flexible modalities? So number one, a teacher should be skilled in what? Choosing assessment methods appropriate for instructional decision. So what will be the best method that the teacher must use, in order for her to assess her learners? So choosing assessment methods appropriate for instructional decisions. Number two, developing assessment methods also appropriate for instructional decisions. And then number three, administering, scoring, and interpreting the results of both externally produced and teacher produced assessment methods. And then using assessment results when making decisions. So teachers actually, they're using assessment results when they are making decisions about individual students, about planning, teaching, developing curriculum, and school improvement. Communicating assessment results to students, parents, other lay audiences, and other educators. Recognizing unethical, illegal, and otherwise inappropriate assessment methods and uses of assessment information. So let me just tell you about this one. Actually, sir, made mention about this one a while ago. How do we design assessment tools in flexible learning? So this is the process. Of course, we need to design the test. So that's the first thing that we have to do. We need to design the test. In the Philippines, we have the most essential learning competencies. All we have to do is to identify there the competencies or the most essential competencies that we have to use. And after knowing the most essential learning competencies, we have to develop and review specifications. So after that, of course, we need to write the item or the tasks. So how come we need to validate? Because as what I've said, we need to align our questions, our items to our competencies, to our most essential learning competencies. After validating, you found out that some of your questions or some of the items are not aligned with the most essential competencies. Of course, you need to revise the item or the task and then pilot test, and then you need to analyze the results, revise if needed, and then you need to try it out. If not, then you need to establish its validity and reliability, and then you have to prepare assessment manuals. Okay, then what are we going to do next? So when we are talking about this one, okay, so we have here samples of techniques for its formative assessment. I'll just read some. Let's say when you are establishing, let's say you want to establish a clear learning target and success. Let's say if it is under asynchronous or synchronous, usually under asynchronous, we are using email, text, mobile message, social media, LMS. Now synchronous, we are using phone call, video call, live chat. So we usually pause, let's say if it is under asynchronous, we usually pause the learning targets before the start of a lesson to get learners to think about what they will be learning and how these are connected to their prior knowledge and personal experiences. How about when it comes to synchronous? Actually, we share and highlight important details of the learning targets and then ask learners to explain the targets in their own words if it is synchronous. How about if we want to elicit useful evidences of learning? Same. We have to pose a variety of questions, no, if it is under asynchronous, especially those that will engage learners in deep thinking. Ask learners to respond and to commit on other classmates' answers. How about under synchronous? Let's say if we want to elicit evidences or useful evidences of learning, usually we provide exercises in multiple formats if it is under synchronous, like by multiple choice, matching, short answer, essay, to be taken on the same day and at the same time. So we give learners a set time to complete its exercise. How about if we want to provide effective feedback to our learners? How do we do it if it is, let's say, under asynchronous? We need to record and upload an audio video file containing feedback on learners' performance. Or maybe we will send written feedbacks via email, SMS, or mobile message. No? If necessary, add photographs or screenshots of learners' outputs to support the feedback. And then we also, let's say, under synchronous, um, during a live small group discussion, we usually do this. We show and explain the improvements they made. Or maybe another way, initiate a real-time conversation with a learner to give feedback about his or her performance or a live class discussion. Now, how do we engage our learners in assessing and improving each other's work? No, let me give you one instance. We let our learners make multiple attempts at one task and select one that they think is the best. Have them exchange their work with a partner who selects one of their partner's attempts they believe is the best, compare their choices, and discuss any areas of concern. How about We usually conduct a whole class session to construct ground rules for peer feedback. So that is only one of the many things that we are doing. Okay. Now, how about I have here a sample of summative assessment tools. Like, for example, if we are talking about languages, we have written outputs for face-to-face learning. I'll just give you some samples. Let's say book article reviews, essays. For products, we have campaigns, we have case studies, we have collages, etc., etc. For performance tests, we have debates, interviews. How about for, let's say, online distance learning? So when it comes to, let's say, languages, we under written outputs, we are using blog posts on a book, article review, essay submitted. For products, YouTube campaign videos, case studies published through Adobe Acrobat. For performance tasks, online debates. Okay, like that. No, for languages. How about for math? We usually use mathematics investigation also, and then for written outputs, data gathering, analysis, and for science, we are also using investigatory projects. Not for our summative assessment tools. We also use concept maps. Not for our written output. So we have so many summative assessment tools for online distance learning, of course. And then, how about for digital printed modular? So what are the sample summative assessment tools that we have? Let's say, uh, uh, when we are talking about, let's say, languages, we have for written outputs, we have book article reviews, essays, journals, products. We have campaigns, case studies. For performance tasks, we have interviews. Now, format, we have data recording, and etc., etc. Now, Um, so we have different. How about for digital printed modular learning, RBI, and homeschooling? Usually, we have essays, diagrams for our written outputs, work designs and plans. For product, we have technical drawing output, prototype building, projects using locally available materials. Now, for performance tasks, of course, we have skills, demonstration, skills application, laboratory exercises, oral tests. So performance tasks must be designed to provide opportunities for learners to apply what they are learning to real life situations. And in addition, we have to remember this: teachers should take into consideration that each task must be accompanied with clear directions and appropriate scoring tools. So when we are giving activities, be sure that these tasks are accompanied with what? With clear directions and appropriate uh, scoring tools. So how do we make online tests? So same, no? How do we develop this paper-based online? So same, we need to design the test, identify competencies. We need to develop TOS because we cannot do away when let's say when we are talking about TOS, and then write items and then validate up to the last one, which is number 12. We need revise items in paper and then online if needed, and then pilot tests, analyze the results, revise if needed, and then try it out. If not, you have to try it out again. But if it is okay, you need to establish its validity and reliability. Again, if it is okay, use the test for its defined purpose. So we need, number 2, we need to identify competencies. So when we are identifying the competencies, no, because the first one is that we need to design test framework. Number 2, we need to identify the competencies. So as what I've said, we have the most essential learning competencies. Okay, choose those competencies that could be captured by the chosen format of the test. Okay, and then we need to review the TOS. So we need to develop and review the TOS. So what is this one? So decide on the format of the test table of specification. Are you going to use the one-way, two-way, or two-way when, let's say, when you are constructing a test? Are you going to use one-way, two-way, or three-way? And then you need to indicate the specifications of the test in the TOS to include its framework and appropriate competencies. You need also to include the test format, the number placement, and percentage of items. Review the constructed TOS if all details are correctly placed based on the test framework. So you all know what we mean when we are talking about table of specification. It's actually a plan prepared by a teacher as a basis for test construction, especially a periodic test. Okay, according to Garcia 2008, Table of Specification or TOS, it's a matrix of proportioning test items based on learning objectives and skills covered in the testing period. And at the same time, it's also a guide, no, to guide the test constructor also in balancing the test items according to the teaching learning circumstances. And at the same time, to validate teacher-made tests as per the instructional content and learning objectives. So what are the formats of the TOS? So we have the one-way, we have the two-way, we have the three-way. So a one-way test is designed primarily based on the content or the test objectives. So what you will write there, of course, will be the test objectives or the competencies or the most essential competencies. Now, for two-way, the test is designed to reflect the levels of cognitive behavior targeted per test, no? Based on the theory behind cognitive testing. Let's say we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And then three-way, the test is designed to reflect the features of one-way and two-way. Now, if it is a one-way test, we need to write the content. And at the same time, we need to write the learning competencies, the number of hours taught, and then the placement of items and the number of items and the percent of items. So if you notice in here, we need to write only the learning competencies and the content. So we don't need to write the cognitive process dimension. Remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So if you will be using one-way TOS, the cognitive process dimensions are not written. Okay, and then under also one-way TOS, the number of items for a given test objective should be in proportion to the estimated time for instruction. Example, if a given test objective was taught for 2 hours out of 10 hours coverage of test, then a test with 100 items should have 10 items for that given objective. Now, always remember, if it is a one-way test, so we need to write the content, the learning competencies, the number of hours, the placement items, and the percentage of items. So what is the advantage of this format? Easy to use because one just works on the objectives without worrying on the different levels of cognitive behaviors. So we're only, if you will use one way, you will just working on the objectives without worrying on the different levels of cognitive behaviors. Now, how about let's say when we are talking about this one-way TOS? Tests may not capture all levels of cognitive behaviors that a meaningful instruction should have developed. That's the problem because the cognitive behaviors or the levels of cognitive behaviors are not written. Tests may not capture all levels of cognitive behaviors. Okay. Now, how about a two-way format toss? Now, a two-way format toss, we have the content, but we don't have the objectives. We have only the content, the instructional time, the number of items, the percentage of items, the the level of behavior, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and also creating. But we don't have the objectives under the two-way format TOS. Now, what is the advantage of these formats? It allows one to see at a glance the level of thinking skills that are being emphasized. So because level of behaviors are written, or I mean the level of behavior, you can see the level of behavior once you use the two-way format test. This format also shows the framework of assessment, and that is what? Um, so again, the in here we have also the instructional time, the number of items, a percent of items. Okay, and then what is the disadvantage of this format? It is difficult to construct items for a target level without a statement of objective where the required behavior is given. Uh, is given. Now, how about a three-way format toss? So a three-way format toss, we have the content. It's a complete, no? One, we have the content, we have the learning competencies, we have the instructional time, we have the number of items, the percentage of items, we have the level of behavior. Toss one, we have only the objectives. Okay? Or I mean one way. Two way, we have the level of behavior. Of course, others are there not content, instructional time, percent of items, percent of items. And then for three-way format TOS, we have the learning competencies. And at the same time, we have also the level of behavior. So um, one-way format, we have the objectives. Two-way format, we have the level of behavior. Three-way format, we have the learning competencies, or we have the objectives, and at the same time, we have the level of behavior. So, what is the advantage of this format? It challenges the writer to classify objectives according to the levels of cognitive learning based on the theory behind the assessment. Like, for example, if this is your objective, so is that objective will be under remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So, it challenges the writer to classify objectives according to the different levels of cognitive learning based on the theory behind. Now, it shows also the variability of thinking skills targeted, giving emphasis on the most desirable learning outcome that the test could measure and all the possible prerequisite thinking skills to achieve this learning outcome. Now, what is the disadvantage of this format? Its complexity may require so much time from the test writer. Okay, so and again, how do we make tests authentic? So may I again repeat? One way, we have only what? The objectives, okay? And then we have the other I mean, we have only the objectives, and then for two-way, we have the level of behavior. For three-way, we have the learning competencies and the level of behavior. So after doing this, now let's say because under this one, when we are talking about the way on how to develop the test, let's say the first thing that we have to do is that we have to design the test framework, identify competencies, and then develop and review TOS. So once you have the TOS already, you can write now the item, you can validate, and at the same time revise if necessary, and then pilot test, and then analyze the results, revise if needed, try it out, and then you need to establish its validity and reliability. And then after that, you can already use the test for its defined purpose. And then after that, what are we going to do? Okay. So, of course, after knowing the three formats that we have when it comes to TOS, okay, how to make tests authentic. So we need to allow our students to create their own responses or solutions to problems. And at the same time, we need to target assessment of hats of applying, analyzing, uh, applying, problem solving, evaluating, and creating. And then we need to allow students to see application of knowledge and skills in real life situations. Okay. And then we have some of the common barriers to be avoided when we are preparing tests. So we have to take this we have to take note of this. I mean, so vocabulary that is unnecessarily difficult. So don't use words that are very difficult. Okay, sentence structure that is unnecessarily complex. Statements that contain ambiguity, unclear pictorials materials. Once the students will be confused about the pictures, you'll not be able to measure what you want to measure. So if that will happen, the test then will not be valid anymore. Directions that are vague. Material reflecting race, ethnic, or sex bias. Some common clues to be avoided during the test preparation. Verbal association that give away the answer, grammatical inconsistencies that eliminate the wrong answer, specific determiners that make certain answers probable and other improbable. So how do we prepare the test items? So these are the tips that of course, we have to know the subject thoroughly. We need to understand the pupils being tested. So what kind of learners you have? So you need to know them, because as what I've said, we have learners who are ready. We have also learners who are ready, not ready, and ready to go beyond. Be skilled in verbal expression. Be thoroughly familiar with various formats. You must know how to make a multiple choice. You must know how to make matching type. You must know how to make the true or false essay test type of test. So we have different formats. You have to be familiar with these formats. Now, some general considerations in writing test items. So, of course, we have to what? Carefully define our instructional objectives. And then we need to prepare a test blueprint. Keep it before you and continually refer to it as you write the test items. Formulate well-defined questions. Write its test item on a separate card. Prepare a scoring key or guide, preferably as the item is being written. It's better that after writing the item, you also write the answer. Now, prepare more items than actually needed. So you have to prepare more items. Write the test item as soon as possible after the material has been taught. So it's very good if you are going to, or if you will write the test item right away after discussing that certain topic. It's better if you will write the items or the questions right away. Now, prepare the items well in advance to permit reviews and editing. Be careful when rewarding a faulty item. Now, let me share this with you, no? Guidelines for constructing, improving multiple choice test items. So when you are constructing a multiple choice item, so actually we are doing this in the Philippines, no? Um, if it is a multiple choice, the main stem of the test item must be constructed in a question form, or maybe in a direction form, or maybe in a completion form. Okay, so let's say if it is in a question form, let me give you one example, which is the same as, let's say, 380. And then if it is a completion form, let's say 380 is the same as, now if it is a direction form, let's say add 22 plus 43. How about uh, when we are writing the test items? Okay, always remember that when you are writing questions, the question should not be trivial. There should be a consensus on its answer. So, an example of a trivial question: what time does the sun rise in the morning? Let's say if it is 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. No, so please do not um, write questions that are trivial. Okay, questions that tap only rote learning and um, memory should be also avoided. Now, each question should have only one answer, not several possible answers. No, I am talking about multiple choice. Each question should have only one answer, not several possible answers. And at the same time, um, when you are writing those questions or items, so what are you going to do in order for you to improve or construct your alternatives? Always remember that alternatives should be as closely related to each other as possible. And then you have to anticipate pupils' mistakes also. And always remember that alternatives should be arranged in natural order. So from highest to lowest, let's say if you have four choices, so you have to arrange them from highest to lowest or from lowest to highest. And then alternatives should be arranged according to length, from shortest to longest or from longest to shortest. And then when alternatives are of the same length, they should be arranged in alphabetically. So we need to arrange them also alphabetically. And then, so since we don't have enough time, it's already 9:50. Always remember that when we are constructing tests, we have to be aware of this. No, a test must be valid. Okay, we have to remember this one. So the first one, the test must be valid, reliable. A test must be what easy. A good test can be administered with ease, clarity, and uniformity. A good test is easy to score. Tests are easy to score when directions for scoring are clear. The scoring key is symbol. Provisions to answer sheet are made. Machine scores or stencil scoring is possible. And then test results can be useful only when they are properly evaluated. They can be evaluated after they are interpreted. Okay, and uh, uh, and also remember that when we are constructing tests, we have to know our objectives. Always remember that when we are constructing our test items, these test items must be aligned with our objectives. They should be aligned with our objectives. Actually, some of our learners, sometimes they are asking, and let's say you as a teacher, if you want to evaluate whether the test is easy or difficult, we usually compare the mean and the median. So if, let's say, you have to find the mean, the median, and the mode, so that you will be able to evaluate whether the test is easy, whether the test is just good for the students, or whether the test is difficult. So if the mean is greater than the median, we have a positively skewed distribution. It means to say the test is difficult. But if the mean is less than the median, we have a negatively skewed distribution. It means to say that the test is easy. But if the mean, the median, and the mode are equal, it means to say the test is just good for the student. So it means to say you made a good test. So again, thank you and good night.
Hello, hello. Dr. Nesta and Maria, can you hear me? Dr. Nesta and Maria, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
sir. Yes, yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes. I just request you, please, switch on your camera that participants can see you, and we'll just pin some question to the screen. Then you have to answer the questions as by Q&A section. So it's time for Q&A section, and we'll put some question in your screen. So have a look on it.
Hello, Sir Nestor. Can you hear me, Sir Nestor?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first question, sir, what are the characteristics of an effective assessment for you, sir?
Well, an effective assessment should be online with the most essential learning competencies, and it assesses, of course, the knowledge, the skills, as all the attributes of the student must be assessed, or a test is an effective if contains the Bloom's taxonomy of education, especially higher order thinking skills. In the Bloom's taxonomy of education, we have the 28th and 21st century. And so today we are using the 21st century. The highest order thinking skills is and falls under 3A. Thank you.
So the second question, sir, what type of test should be given to some students with disabilities?
So there for disabilities, perhaps uh, we make use of, let's say, if the student could not hear, then we have to develop a test which he could the use of his or her eyes could be used. Okay, and if uh, if we could let's say um, uh, I think I need help, Ma'am Malang.
Okay, based on what I know, sir, so I think we need to, because in here the question, what type of test should be given to some students with disabilities? So when you will craft or construct a test, be sure that you know the kind of learners that you will test. You have to, like for example, if you are assessing those students who are blind, of course you cannot give the usual test that we are giving to our normal students. So you have to make a test for students who are blind or for those students who cannot hear. So you have to construct, or you have to of course make the test that is suited to their abilities. Let's say we have if the students are not that good in mathematics, let's say, because they have let's say they are low performers, okay? So of course, what will you do now? You have to think of another way, or you need to construct another test that is good for low performing students. For me, sir.
Yes, yes,
So, sir, let me read the third question. In the excellent flow of education and pedagogy, what is the best acknowledge of its future to be? That is the third question.
yes.
Question given by Sir Jacob
Right,
C.
Jacob.
Cardell. So, in the excellent of flow of education and pedagogy, what is the best acknowledge of its future to be? So maybe once because we are using the uh, let's say the excellent flow of education, we can produce globally competitive learners. We can produce globally competitive citizens
Mm,
because we are using the excellent flow of education and pedagogy.
yes. The skills that our student
Yes.
acquired today, especially now that we are using ICT, uh, our students now are very competitive, not only here in the Philippines, but internationally or globally. So we are doing everything for them to improve, to compete with the other nation. Uh, Even though our performance in mathematics and science, Madam Malang, is very low, but then we are doing a lot of things to improve them. So hopefully we could be able to do more pedagogy or even the content. No, we can teach, or our teachers could teach the learning competencies uh, better. No? So that's it, ma'am.
Uh, Salma, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Thank you, sir, for giving your valuable insight on educational authentic assessment. Dear knowledge seeker, I would love to thank you all from my deep heart for attending today's session. Hopefully, you learned something new and you will implement it in your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear speakers, for your time and your presentation as well. Uh, it's From the beginning, I thought that what's the benefit of educational authentic assessment? I'm just curious, totally curious about myself. But after your presentation, I learned something new about myself also, which I can apply in my as well my firm or my every side in which can applicable. But uh, now at present, I realize the system which actually educational authentic assessment procedure. Thank you so much, dear speakers, for your time and presentation, and I hope our participants will definitely learn something. Before I started the presentation or before I started the program, I asked to you or I requested to you that we have to share, nothing more. We have to share which we have. So we did it better, and it was the great session. In belongs to comment section. Here is a lots of comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it was a great presentation for me and as well as my participants also. So uh, see you again in another session. Hopefully, dear participants, this is our today's session, and for certification you have to log in. It's a simple system, www.eduigp.com, and here you have to click on today's session, international webinar on international educational authentic assessment, and after open a tab, you have to click on enroll. Before enroll, you have to create an account for the first and last time. You have to create an account for once. After sign up then you just click on enroll, and after click on get your certificate. Code not required. So you can click on get your certificate without leave the class code blank, and which those user from mobile, uh, we need some time to resolve the problem. I think we will solve the problem within 2 or 3 days, but in between time, in meanwhile, you have to log in or you have to sign up first, then you have to scroll down at the bottom part, then you can see a sidebar of enroll button. So click on enroll, and then again scroll at the bottom part, then you can see get your certificate. So click on get your certificate. Code not required for both, code not required. And you can verify your certificate from any side, anywhere, anytime, so no problem at all. And again, you can download previous all webinars certificates, and you can attend previous all webinars also. So you have to log in just www.eduigp.com. And our next webinar, it's a great session again, that day-to-day NLP, uh, which is around held on 14th March at 7 p.m. Bangladesh Standard Time. And our speaker, he's also a previous speaker, Mr. Dark Corsia. He's from South Africa, and he's just awesome in NLP. He's just awesome in NLP. So see you again in the next session, which is held on 14th March, 7 p.m. BST. At the same platform, we are running the program about Facebook Live. So see you again in next session. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank you, Dr. Nestor and Maria, for your beautiful time and presentation. Thank you so much. And one suggestion or request for to the participants that if you faced any kinds of problem during certification, I saw that lots of comments where you wrote that you attended 6 webinar but you got 3 certificates. Don't hesitate to reach with us. It's a request to you that if you got some problem, if you face some problem regarding certification, so just message us in our page inbox. We will guide you through Zoom meeting. So no problem at all. We'll guide you through Zoom meeting, one-to-one meeting, group meeting, no problem at all. We'll just notify us. Thank you so much. See you again in next session at 14th March. Thank you.